Imagine walking into your house after a grueling work trip, ready to hug your kid, only to hear a stranger's voice upstairs, in your son's room. I froze, my suitcase still in hand. As this woman I'd never met was calmly packing my boy's toys into boxes, like she owned the place. Then she looks me dead in the eye and says, "Kids like yours don't need all this clutter," before dialing 911, painting me as some kind of threat in my own home. My name's Marcus Tate, a 35-year-old single dad raising my 9-year-old son, Caleb, in a quiet little neighborhood called Oak Ridge Meadows, just outside Charlotte. I'm a freelance web developer, which lets me be there for Caleb's soccer games and school plays while keeping the bills paid. We moved here 7 months ago, chasing a fresh start after a messy divorce, hoping for good schools, friendly neighbors, and a place where Caleb could just be a kid. But that afternoon, standing in my son's doorway, I realized we'd walked into something uglier than I ever could have imagined, a calculated campaign that wasn't just about toys, but about who we were. I'd been in Raleigh for 4 days, pitching a big project, and I was beat. Mrs. Chin, our neighbor, had watched Caleb while I was gone, and when I picked him up that morning, he was quieter than usual, clinging to me a little tighter. I chalked it up to missing me, told him to go play in his room while I unpacked. That's when I heard it, a woman's voice, sharp and clipped, coming from upstairs. Not Caleb's usual chatter with his action figures, but an adult, giving orders. My stomach twisted. Mrs. Chin was at her shift at the hospital, and I hadn't invited anyone over. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my heart pounding, trying to stay calm, but feeling that dad instinct screaming something was wrong. When I reached Caleb's doorway, it was like stepping into a bad dream. This woman, mid-40s, blonde hair pulled tight, dressed in a crisp white blouse and navy slacks, was folding Caleb's comic books into a box, stacking his robot toys like she was clearing out a storage unit. Caleb was curled up by his bed, eyes wide, clutching his favorite Spider-Man figure. When he saw me, his face lit up with relief. But he didn't move. "Excuse me," I said, my voice low, fighting to keep it steady. "Who are you, and why are you in my son's room?" She didn't flinch, just straightened up, grabbing a clipboard from nowhere, and gave me this smile that was all teeth, no warmth. "I'm Linda Carver, Neighborhood Standards Liaison for Oak Ridge Meadows," she said, like it was a title she'd rehearsed in the mirror. "I'm conducting a property alignment evaluation. Your son's room doesn't meet our community guidelines." I blinked, trying to process. "Property alignment? Lady, this is my house. You've got no right touching his stuff." That's when she said it, cool as ice. "Kids like Caleb don't need so many toys. It's excessive, and frankly, it disrupts the neighborhood's aesthetic harmony." I felt my blood heat up, but it was her next line that hit like a punch. Pointing at Caleb's drawings taped to the wall, spaceships, dinosaurs, him and me at the park, she sneered. "This kind of expression isn't in line with our community's visual standards." I laughed, couldn't help it. "You're telling me a 9-year-old's crayons are tanking property values? Are you serious?" Caleb's voice piped up, small and shaky. "Dad, she said my stuff makes the houses look cheap." My chest tightened, hearing my kid parrot her nonsense, his eyes darting between us. I knelt beside him, squeezing his shoulder. "Your stuff's awesome, bud. Don't listen to her." But Linda wasn't done. She pulled out a document, waving it like a badge. "Per the neighborhood optimization protocol, families like yours need to streamline to maintain our community's appeal. Your son's clutter is a liability. Families like yours." The words hung there, heavy, coded, and I knew exactly what she meant. Before I could respond, she tapped her phone, activating what she called a community safety alert. Within minutes, curtains twitched, neighbors peeked out, some stepping onto their porches. She'd turned my home into a stage, and I was the villain. Then she dialed 911, her voice shifting to panic. "Yes, I'm at 142 Oak Ridge Lane. There's an aggressive man here, threatening me. I'm not safe." I stood there, stunned, as she painted me, a black dad in his own house, as a danger. Officer Ramirez rolled up, a guy in his 50s with sharp eyes that took in everything. Linda by the window. Clipboard clutched like a shield, Caleb glued to my side, trembling. "Afternoon," he said, calm but firm. "What's going on?" Linda jumped in before I could speak, handing him a thick folder. "Officer, thank you for coming. I've compiled evidence of community standard violations here, noise issues, aesthetic disruptions, cultural incompatibilities. She flipped open the folder, showing photos of Caleb's room, our driveway basketball hoop, even our grill after a cookout, all labeled with terms like urban influence and property devaluation risk. I clenched my fists, keeping my voice even. She broke into my house, officer. She's packing my son's things without permission. I've never met her before. Ramirez raised an eyebrow, scanning the photos. These were taken inside the residence. How'd you get them? Linda didn't blink. Caleb invited me in to assess his room. Caleb shook his head, whispering, "That's a lie, Dad. She came when you were gone." I pulled out my phone, recording. "She's been here 3 times, officer, intimidating my kid, saying his toys and drawings are wrong for the neighborhood." Linda's smile faltered, but she doubled down. "As standards liaison, I'm ensuring families like Mr. Tate's integrate properly. Their lifestyle choices, loud music, cluttered spaces, don't align with our community's values." That phrase again, families like yours. And I saw Ramirez catch it, his eyes narrowing. Caleb spoke up, voice quivering but clear. "She said Dad needs to raise me better so we don't bother the real families." The ear shifted. Ramirez's face hardened. "Ma'am, show me documentation for your authority." She handed him a letter. But he frowned. "This is self-written, no seal, no signatures. There's no legal basis for entering private property." That's when Mrs. Liu, an older neighbor who kept to herself, stepped forward. Nervous but determined. "Officer, I saw her go into Marcus's house yesterday while he was gone. She was there over an hour, and I heard Caleb crying." Linda's face drained of color. "Mrs. Liu, this doesn't concern you," she snapped, but Ramirez cut her off. "Ma'am, this sounds like trespassing and intimidation of a minor. Leave the property now." I told Ramirez I didn't want to press charges yet, just wanted her gone. After he escorted her out, I spent the evening unpacking Caleb's toys, reassuring him his room was perfect. But as he slept, I couldn't shake it. Linda's folder, her fake title, the way she targeted us, it wasn't random. I fired up my laptop, digging into Oak Ridge Meadows. No HOA, no community board, no standards liaison. Our neighborhood was just a regular subdivision, no fancy governance. Then I checked Linda's social media, and my skin crawled. Posts about preserving traditional values. Rants against cultural shifts in good neighborhoods. Her last job? Fired from a marketing firm for diversity-related misconduct. This wasn't just a nosy neighbor, it was a pattern. The next morning, I knocked on Mrs. Liu's door. Over tea, she opened up, her voice soft but heavy. "Marcus, she's been at it for months, bothering families who don't look like her." She showed me photos Linda had taken of her herb garden, labeled exotic overgrowth, and fake violation notices demanding she plant American-appropriate flowers. "She made me feel like my bamboo was a crime," Mrs. Liu said, her eyes wet. She mentioned the Garcias, a Mexican-American family down the street, targeted for their noisy family parties. I asked if she'd come with me to talk to them, and she nodded, clutching her photos like armor. At the Garcias house, Luis and Sofia welcomed us, their faces tightening when I mentioned Linda. "She's been after us since we moved in," Luis said, pulling out a folder of his own, letters complaining about their piñatas, photos of their kid's birthday party labeled public disturbance. Even a city complained about foreign food odors from their taco nights. "She knows when we're home, when our kids get off the bus," Sofia added, her voice shaking. "It's like she's watching us." They showed me a schedule Linda had somehow compiled, tracking their routines, down to Luis's teaching hours at the high school. Then they mentioned the Patels, an Indian family 2 blocks over. We drove there, and Anika Patel invited us in, her teenage son, Arjun, hovering nearby. "Linda's been relentless," Anika said, showing us violation notices about their holy decorations, calling their colored powders vandalism. She'd photographed their house during prayers, sent letters demanding they remove non-American symbols. Arjun spoke up, his voice low. "She followed me from school, asking about our festivals, saying I should act more American to fit in. I stopped inviting friends over because of her. It hit me like a brick." Linda was running a one-woman crusade, targeting every minority family in Oak Ridge Meadows, using fake documents and coded language to mask her bigotry. She wasn't just harassing us, she was building a case to push us out, family by family. Mrs. Liu looked at me, her quiet voice firm. "We can't let her keep doing this. My grandkids deserve to grow up proud of who they are." Luis nodded. This is our home. We're not leaving because she's got a problem with tacos. That night, I planned our counterattack. Linda thrived on isolating us, picking us off one by one with her clipboard and lies. But together, we were stronger. I called a neighborhood standards meeting for Saturday using her own buzzwords. Inviting every family, but making sure the Lius, Garcias, Patels, and 2 other targeted families were front and center. I wasn't sure who'd show, but by 10 a.m. the park pavilion was packed, over 60 people, including white families who'd seen Linda's antics and felt uneasy but hadn't spoken up. When Linda strutted in, clipboard in hand, her smug smile vanished. She wasn't facing one scared family. She was facing a community. I wasn't informed of an official meeting, she said, her voice tight. As standards liaison, I should have set the agenda. I stood, smiling. Funny you mentioned standards, Linda, because that's why we're here, to talk about yours. Mrs. Liu went first, holding up her photos. You called my garden aggressively foreign, said my herbs hurt property values. These are the violation notices you left, with no legal authority. The crowd murmured, shifting uncomfortably. Luis Garcia stepped up, his teacher's voice steady. You called my daughter's quinceañera a public disturbance, filed complaints about our family dinners. You photographed our guests' cars. Tried to fine us for having cousins over. Sophia added, you said our cooking smells were invasive. My kids are afraid to play outside because of you. Arjun Patel spoke, his voice cracking but strong. You followed me home, took pictures of our prayers, told me to hide my culture to blend in. I'm 15, and you made me feel like I don't belong in my own country. Linda's face reddened, but she tried to rally. You're all misunderstanding. I'm protecting our neighborhood's appeal, its traditional character. Property values depend on consistency, on families who respect the community's heritage. Luis cut her off, sharp. You mean white heritage? Because last I checked, America's about freedom, not your version of traditional. The crowd erupted, voices overlapping, some shocked, others angry. Then her husband, Greg, showed up, still in his electrician's uniform, looking confused. Linda, what's this about? He asked. Stepping into the pavilion. She spun on him, desperate. Greg, they're attacking me for upholding standards. But Greg's eyes landed on the folders, the photos, the faces staring her down. What standards? Linda, we don't have an HOA. You told me you were elected to some board, but there's no board. The silence was deafening. He pressed, softer now. Did you go into Marcus's house? Are you taking pictures of people's kids? Linda's voice shook. Greg, you don't get it. Someone has to protect our investment, our way of life. These families, their music, their decorations. Their differences, it's changing everything. Greg stepped back, horrified. You're saying they're not American? Marcus builds websites. Luis teaches our kids. Mrs. Liu's a retired librarian. What's not American about that? Linda's mask slipped completely. I mean families who respect the neighborhood's original character. Greg. Families like us, who belong here. The word belong lit a fuse. Mrs. Evans, a white mom who'd been quiet, stood up, phone in hand. I recorded this, and I'm ashamed to call you a neighbor. My son learned soccer from Caleb. Spanish from the Garcia kids, about Diwali from Arjun. That's not disruption, that's America. Mr. Brooks, an older white retiree, added, I've lived here 30 years. Every family makes this place better. Your standards aren't community. They're control, plain and simple. Greg's voice broke the chaos. Linda, you've been keeping files on people? Schedules. Photos, their kids' routines. He turned to me, voice raw. Marcus, I found boxes in our garage, documents, pictures. I thought it was for some committee. Is this what she's been doing? I nodded. She's been stalking every minority family here. Greg, trying to drive us out with fake violations. Greg's face fell. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know. That's when Councilwoman Teresa Vega arrived, tipped off by a neighbor's call. She carried real authority, her folder packed with fair housing laws and anti-harassment codes. Mrs. Carver, she said, voice like steel, your actions violate City Ordinance April 2nd, 19. Unauthorized entry, forged documents, targeted harassment based on race. These are serious offenses. Linda stammered. I was protecting property values, maintaining standards. Vega shut her down. Property values don't justify discrimination. You've committed trespassing, forgery, and potentially hate crimes. Greg spoke up, his voice steady now. Councilwoman, I'll turn over everything in our garage, every file, every photo. I want to know how far this went, and these families deserve answers. Linda's plea, Greg, don't, was ignored. Vega took notes. Mr. Carver, we'll need your cooperation. Mrs. Carver, expect a formal complaint notice within 48 hours. Get a lawyer. 6 months later, Oak Ridge Meadows was a different place, not the houses, but the people. Linda pled no contest to harassment and trespassing, paid fines, and got a restraining order keeping her away from us. She's doing court-ordered diversity training and counseling. But a letter she sent through the court, part of her accountability process, showed she still didn't get it. Mr. Tate, she wrote, my concerns were about community appeal, not personal. Demographic shifts can unsettle longtime residents. I hope Oak Ridge keeps its charm. Same old coded garbage, no real remorse. Some folks never change. But we did. Caleb needed therapy to process Linda's invasion, but he's thriving now, his drawings back on the walls, bolder than ever. Mrs. Liu started a community garden, teaching kids to grow basil and bok choy. The Garcias hosted a block-wide taco night, piñatas and all. The Patels invited everyone to Holi, and seeing Caleb covered in colored powder, laughing with Arjun, felt like a win bigger than any courtroom. We formed a real neighborhood association, with me as president, Mrs. Liu as vice, and Luis as treasurer. Our charter bans discrimination, period, and sets up ways to handle issues without clipboards or creeps. The kids Caleb, Arjun, the Garcia girls, are tight, swapping languages, celebrating each other's holidays, building a world Linda couldn't touch. Caleb's 10th birthday was a friendship fiesta, his words, with every family bringing something. Lumpia, tamales, samosas, cupcakes. Greg showed up, no longer with Linda, apologizing again, helping us understand how she'd hidden her prejudice behind community pride. His honesty sparked real talks about race, privilege, even among white neighbors who'd stayed quiet before. Councilwoman Vega turned our story into a citywide training on spotting subtle discrimination. Oak Ridge Meadows became a model for fighting bias with unity. Sitting on my porch now, watching Caleb sketch a dragon, I think about how close we came to letting Linda win, how fear and division almost fractured us. You okay, Dad? Caleb asks, pencil pausing. I smile. Better than ever, but because of you. And them. I nod toward the Garcias' house, where music's already starting for their next party. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder how many other Lindas are out there in other neighborhoods, wielding fake authority to divide? Last week, a woman from a nearby subdivision emailed me, saying her HOA is targeting her Vietnamese family's Lunar New Year decorations. Caleb overheard and said, Dad, we gotta help them, like you helped us. He's right, but it's a fight that never seems to end. What do you think? Is it on us to call out every Linda? Or should we just build our own table and let them stew? Drop your thoughts below. Share your stories. Have you faced a neighbor like this? Hit that bell, spread this video, because somewhere, another family's fighting to belong, and they need to know they're not alone. Keep the faith, y'all.